Okay, we are recording. Welcome, everybody. If everyone could very quickly unlock your pictures, because I want to see if I can do this. Does anyone know how to do a Dale laptop snapshot where I can transfer it to a picture? Is it one of my screens, one of my F buttons?
You can do a snipping tool, Dr. Stone. You could do a snipping tool. That would be the easiest way. Or you can hit Control Print Screen on your laptop, and it'll take a snapshot also.
All right, I'm gonna do a snipping. So Ryan, Darlene, Nicole, sign on with your picture so I can have a facial expression here. And anyone else, you don't have to stay on all the whole time. I'm gonna let you go back to sleep or eating or whatever it is you do while I'm talking and your classroom mates are talking, but I do want to really quickly get just this. I'm gonna do a snippet, is what I'm gonna do. Darlene, Nicole, if you can uncover for just a second. Okay, all right, Nicole. Oh, there you are, you made it. All right, Darlene, all right, I'm gonna do this really quickly. So everybody look at me. Okay, everybody look. Put on that smile. Oh, no one's smiling. Is this a frozen? All right, smile, everyone. All right, I think I got it. Save as. We'll call that snippet. No, we'll call that Zoom picture. All right, so welcome, everybody. I am so glad that you are here tonight. Let me get rid of this. And this is week 8, so we only have 2 more sessions after this. So we are done with the PEASL standards. So there'll be a slight quiz or a small quiz a little bit later on, but we still have, I think, 1 more presentation on the digital standards 4 and 5, which we'll have tonight. So next, and then we're going to have a session on, for the next 3 sessions, we're counting this one for the next 2, I want to begin to prepare you for what it might be like going into an administrative position. So if someone has interviewed and would be comfortable kind of sharing kind of how that experience went for you, that would be awesome at the end of the session. I've got a couple of pointers I wanted to share. If someone's been through this, someone's in an administrative position, and really just kind of wants to share what that experience was like going through that first interview. Because at this point in your career, all of you will soon be making that first call and going in for those interviews. And it would be great if your colleagues can say, here's something that prepared me, here's how mentally I got ready for it. So we'll have some time to do that at the end of the session. Next week, we're going to spend a lot more time talking about what the principalship entails, the assistant principalship entails, and we're going to talk about how you can successfully transition from a classroom teacher into that administrative position. And then the last week that we'll be together, we'll be actually doing some mock interviews and taking some interview questions and breaking them down to find out what it is that your interview team is really looking for. I do want to put it out there, if you are in the job market and you are wanting some suggestions for interviews, I'll be more than glad to have a Zoom session with you. I'll be more than glad to share what I know, having done hundreds of interviews. There are some basics, and it's a great process. And one of the things that you learn so much from your interviews. All right, so that said, I am going to stop sharing. And who has digital competency? No, am I still sharing? Yeah, I am. So before we move on, I want to remind you, and this is on the cover dates, for those of you who weren't here when we first started, I just want to remind you that July 20th, you should be very much having most, if not all, well, you should have all of your things completed in TaskStream. So if you are in this course and you still got some things that you need to do in Blackboard from me, put them aside because you will have time to do those. Right now, for now until July the 20th, I really want you to concentrate only on your TaskStream stuff. I have talked to Dr. Revis, and she is sitting by waiting for you to send TaskStream materials to her. We've got almost everyone has completed their PSYOP. If you have not, Dr. Revis is ready for that. But what I really want you to do is to put your classroom materials aside. Focus only on those items that are needed for TaskStream, and so we can try to beat this deadline of the 20th. Now, that's the soft deadline. We have a hard deadline, and that's July the 27th, which gives you an additional week. So if you are struggling, let me know. We certainly can go to the 27th, but I do want you to make you aware of that deadline coming up. There is no August the 1st graduation. I need to delete that. That graduation has been moved back again until October. I sent you a notice about that. Does anybody right offhand remember what date that was? October
23rd.
23rd? All right, but that will probably change again, but put it on your calendar, put it on for you to come to Gardner-Webb for the degree program for whatever they decide to do. I will change that October the date. All right, the last thing I want to share on my screen before we do it is the grading scale. So if you are wondering how you're doing as far as grades for this course, just look at this. A good number of you have already crossed that threshold for an A. Just don't come up with a 2700 and let it go. Find that one extra assignment you need to do to get above that 2789. All right, that said, I'm going to stop sharing. And who am I turning it over to?
Me.
All right, Audrey, all yours then. I'm not sharing, it's yours. Audrey and
Okay.
Caroline,
Yes.
or Emily, if I have you, Emily.
Yeah, well, my first name's Emily. My middle name's Caroline. I go by Caroline, but on paper, everything's Emily. So,
All right.
okay. I'm Caroline Rogers. My partner is Audrey McBride, and we'll be presenting tonight. We will be presenting North Carolina Digital Learning Competency 4, which is personal growth and connectedness. These are our PLC norms. We developed these when we were working together on this project. And two, we kind of looked at it through the lens of if this were in a school setting, you know, it would be done in a PLC environment. So our first norm is respect each other's time, begin and end on time. Number two, respect each other's opinions, thoughtfully involve everyone, assume the best of each other, and have respectful communication as allies by considering matters from another's perspective. Number three, listen without interruptions. Listen respectfully and show others that their voice is important and you care about what they have to say. And then finally, number four, give 100%, contribute equally to the goals of this team, come to meetings prepared, and be actively involved. And then next, we developed an agenda for tonight. Of course, it's July 14th, 2020. Our meeting's at 6 o'clock. First thing on the agenda is to introduce the North Carolina Digital Competency, which I am doing. Then quickly review the data sources that we used. And then next, evaluate element 1 and identify the weaknesses and discuss the recommendations of those, which I'll also be sharing. And then next, evaluate element 2 and identify the weaknesses and recommendations for that element. And then finally, evaluate element 3 and identify the weaknesses and recommendations there. And Audrey will be sharing those two elements tonight. Okay, personal growth and connectedness. That is our digital learning competency number 4. Administrators will develop a personal learning network and demonstrate a dedication for continued growth and excellence. With this competency, there are 3 elements. Element 1 is reflect on, share, and model emerging promising practices regarding effective use of technology for continuous growth, instructional gain, and communication with stakeholders. Element 2, connect with and learn from educators, administrators, and industry experts locally, nationally, and globally. And finally, element number 3, evaluate emerging and current technologies for their potential to enhance the learning environment. And then the data sources that we used are the school report card, and this looks at the success of the school based on student and teacher testing data. And then the teacher working conditions survey, this looks at the success of the school based on from the teacher's perspective. And then the advanced ed report, this looks at the success of the school from an outsider's perspective.
And let me say, Caroline and Audrey, that's the first time I've seen that in a visual, and that is perfect. I really like that. I think that's something that as you all begin to interview for jobs and you begin to think about how you're going to answer the question, what would you do to improve this school? is awesome to know exactly where your data sources are and what formulated those data sources. Good job.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll be sharing element 1, and again, it's reflect on, share, and model emerging promising practices regarding effective use of technology for continuous growth, instructional gain, and communication with stakeholders. Okay, so the first data source was the North Carolina report card. And looking at this, we pulled out a couple things, or a few things. The first thing that we noticed was that we have a higher percentage of students that are not proficient than North Carolina. So those are looking at those level 1s. There's a higher percentage of those than the state. And also, we have a higher percentage of students who are proficient than North Carolina. So if you're looking at the level 3s, in that area, there's a higher percentage there that are proficient. And looking at levels 4s and 5s, college and career ready, we have a lower percentage there of students that are college and career ready than North Carolina.
So, well, just real quickly, Caroline, Emily, what does that tell you? Because we do have the 5 levels. So overall, your assessment of this school, I mean, it's easy to break it down. Level 2s are higher, level 3s are higher. But when you put it all together, what would be your, and this could be anyone, not just Emily and Audrey, but your overall assessment?
I would say, looking at this, my overall assessment is that we do really good with students who are on grade level, but that we need to work on our remediation skills, and that we need to work on our kind of enhancement skills. So we're really good at teaching kind of the grade level, but we need to work on the highs and the lows.
Right. One of the things that really stands out to me, and you're correct, one of the things that really stands out to me is your level 1s. Level 2 students, and you'll become that administrator, you'll spend countless hours talking with your teachers about how to move those level 2s to level 3. There seems to be a lot of emphasis because it's considered low-hanging fruit. What do we need to do? We just need a few more. I mean, when we sit down with principals, that's the first place they go to. How can I move those level 2s to become level 3s? Because that's what really counts. And again, when you look at your level 4s and 5s in particular, it's something completely different. But to me, the thing that really stands out to this is that, yes, we do have the ability to grow some kids from level 2 to level 3. But when you look at that level 1, you know, we're 27.3 and the state's 21 in reading. That's a serious problem for us in reading, because the level 1 kids are not going to, a few days of test taking skills or how to do better at taking the test or how to do some concentrations on reading is not going to get them there. That 27.3% are going to need extensive attention. So, you know, one of the first things that I look at when I look at a school's data is I really do go down to look at what the level 1s are to see how they compare and what their range would be, because these are the kids that are really going to take a lot to get them to where they need to, a lot to get them there. Now, remember, we're looking at proficiency. We're not looking at growth. And so growth may tell a completely different story. But if you're looking only at proficiency, this is not, I mean, we've got some really hardcore kids that aren't reading. And look at how did it, and in math, not as bad. And so, but when you look at science, and again, you've got a real disparaging look there. So, and I'm going to stop in a minute, but when you look at level 5s, who was performing below the state in that, that tells me, where would you look, what programs would you look at to make sure they are standard-based and are getting the results that they need? What was your immediate place that you would go to look?
I know for me, looking at those level 5s, one of the first things I think of immediately is, what are we doing as far as, I know one of the things that we've talked about before is the differentiation and people not feeling like they have enough time. And so looking at how are we enriching those students through those small groups, or these are probably more of like our AIG students. What types of services are they receiving with our AIG services? Or, you know, who are people that we can pull into the classroom to help with some enrichment processes to help improve with their proficiency.
All right, excellent. Anybody else want to share? I'm glad you didn't just leave it with our AIG kids, because although these are probably the bulk of our AIG kids, but you know, non-AIG kids can certainly score a level 5 as well. So but you're correct in saying that it really means that we need to be a little bit more challenging, provide a little bit more challenge and rigor to some of our kids who already get it. Those kids who may be bored, those kids. So it looks to me like we need to provide an avenue, because there's a whole bunch of these number 4s that are just sitting there. Again, that's going to be a challenge issue. All right, I'm sorry. Go right ahead. I'll try not to interrupt y'all. But with that.
Okay.
Well, I'm the teacher. You're supposed to want me to interrupt.
The next piece on that North Carolina report card was down at the bottom, the years of experience, or the years of teacher experience. We noticed that there's a larger population of newer and less experienced teachers. So if you're looking at the school from 0 to 3 years, like those beginning teachers are 42%. So beginning teachers make up more than all the other teachers. 4 years to 10 years is 32% of teachers, and then 10 plus is only 27. Okay, so let's see. Next. Okay, so advanced ed. From the advanced ed report, we pulled indicator 3.4, which is systems and school leaders monitor and support the improvement of instructional practices of teachers to ensure student success. This one was rather low. It was 2.17, and then the average was 2.71. And through this is telling us that the teachers have been left alone without any push to be or do better. You know, it's showing that the teachers are not being supported, and they need more support in the classroom. And with the teacher working conditions survey, we pulled Q 9.1G, which is teachers are assigned classes that maximize their likelihood of success with students. The North Carolina average was 71%, and then the school was just below that at 70.4. So almost 30% of teachers feel that they're not being assigned classes that maximize their likelihood of success with their students. So teachers are not being placed where they feel that they can provide the highest return. So our recommendations are to provide EVOS training for teachers, provide professional development for data-driven instruction, require data talks in the PLC meetings, get into the classroom more through walkthroughs and just making yourself visible in the classrooms. And then finally, look at the EVOS data and other data on teachers to guide the decision on where the teachers, which teachers should work with what students. And because, you know, there's some students, we all know that there's teachers who have strengths. Teachers have their strengths. So there's certain students that work better or certain teachers that work better with certain groups of students. So really looking at that and capitalizing on their strengths.
Okay, wait, real quickly, I want to ask a question to someone, not you two. Someone,
Okay.
answer this for me. You become the new principal, and you have looked at data, and you know that Ms. Smith, who teaches 3rd grade, is phenomenal. I mean, she gets the results. You also know that she came to you, she says, I'm tired of 3rd grade. I want to move to 1st. How do you handle that? I'm just gonna scroll down and call on someone. How would you handle that as an administrator? Let me scroll for a minute. Before I call on someone, see who's awake. All right. I'm going to call on Nicole. You're up. What would you do? Nicole. All right, pick someone else then. Nicole doesn't want to answer me. How about you, Darlene? Oh, come on. You all are listening to our presentation. I know. Anybody? Leave me some calling on people here.
I'll respond, Dr. Stone.
Thank you so much. An extra
In a situation like that, I would definitely have a talk with the teacher. That's one of those moments where you need to have one of those crucial conversations to determine what it is, why she wants to move, what factors are contributing to that decision. Identify and let her know where her strengths are and where you think as a leader she would be better suited. Somehow try to determine some type of compromise between the two of you to determine what is the best fit. Because remember, while some teachers are wanting to do things in their best interest, we're in the business of serving children. Where would she be the best fit to serve?
Absolutely. We are running a school for the benefit of children. Now, I like what you say though, because it could very well be that if she's just die hard on going to first grade, then tell her, I will consider this again at the end of the year if you help me train your third grade team exactly what you're doing. You spend a year helping your third grade team get the results that you get, and then I'll consider moving you. And that's a phenomenal teacher, because if she can train your third grade teachers, 2 or 3 of them, to get the same results, you have got bounty. I mean, that's just a great thing. I let her move on to first grade and do her magic in first grade, because she can probably do her magic in first grade. But I think you're absolutely correct. You are the principal, and your decision should be based on what is best for the kids. And one of the best tools you have for that is your longitudinal data. Now, if she just had a great year last year and her years before that have not been so good, that might be a different discussion. But if she's had 4 or 5 years of some phenomenal longitudinal good data, then that's a conversation you need to have with her. Because as a principal, we do have to, as you said, we do have to make sure we understand that we are about getting results for students. But I would certainly be agreeable to talk to her about it if she can get the rest of the team working her magic. And that might be your compromise. Because I do that, because she, obviously we're in a teacher shortage, she could say, well, I'm going on down the road to Smith Elementary, or they'll let me teach first grade. So try to work with her, obviously, but I like your answer. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
All right, so we're moving on to element 2, which is connect with and learn from educators, administrators, and industry experts locally, nationally, and globally. So for this, we looked at the Advanced Ed report, where we looked at indicator 3.11. And based off of this, teachers are not meeting and collaborating with their PLCs on a regular basis, which to me means that they are not learning from other educators. So that was one of the first ones. And then we looked at the teacher working conditions survey with question 3.1B, question 8.1G, question 9.1F and N. Where with this information, we saw that 30% of teachers say that they do not have enough access to digital content and resources. They do not have sufficient training to use the technology, and they are not encouraged to observe others. We also saw that 20% of teachers do not know instructional strategies used by their peers and the content that they cover. So to me, I'm thinking this is leaving some gaps where there could be some possible cross-curriculum teaching. So with these are the recommendations. Number 1, require that PLCs meet weekly. So having a weekly meetings with your PLC provides so much for teachers. This gives teachers time to vent, plan together, talk about teaching strategies, discuss data and how to use the data to drive instruction to better meet the needs of all learners. 2, require that PLCs observe another PLC's classroom each 9 weeks, such as math, visit social studies, and submit feedback via a Google form. So by observing peers, especially ones that do not teach the same thing as you, it can give teachers meaningful insight into different types of instructional strategies. And then by knowing what content others are teaching, teachers can do some cross-curriculum planning. 3rd, we said speak with, or as a principal, I would want to speak with my district leaders about having district PLCs meet quarterly. So by having district PLC meetings, this allows teachers to have the same type of PLC conversations that they would normally have, but now they're doing it on a district level, so that they're trying to keep not only kind of the in school on the same page, but then their district levels more on the same page. Then we said provide professional development for staff for technology, whether this looked like, I know from my school, at one point we had done like a Tech Tuesday. So just depending on kind of what that looks like, but you know, what is it that the staff wants to learn about? Provide that training to teachers by bringing in outside sources, using experts within the building, or using tech facilitators within the school or the district. And then last, survey teachers to find out what instructional programs they might be interested in. So what instructional programs do they want? Does the district already offer something similar that we may not have to pay for? Can our school pilot any of these programs? Are there any grants that we can apply for to help fund any of these? So not only what is it that they're looking for, but what are some ways that we can help to provide the funding for those? And then element 3 here was all about evaluating emerging and current technologies for their potential to enhance the learning environment. So we looked at, number 1, the Advanced Ed report, and saw that, you know, as we've talked about in some of the other presentations, that digital learning just is not being observed in this school. Digital learning is a huge concern. It needs to be addressed, and I believe that, with what recommendations that we've made so far in our presentation, that score would be higher based off of some of those things. And then also looking at indicator 3.1, we see that what's happening in the classroom is not equitable and rigorous. And this was one of the things that we had talked about a little bit when Dr. Stone kind of came in, was looking at the rigor in the school. So there's a difference between equal and equitable, and teachers need to make sure that they are meeting the needs of all learners and creating work that is rigorous. Students should be graded on their depth of understanding of a concept and not their behavior. A student should not have a 95 in the class yet be not proficient on an EOG or an EOC. So again, making sure that we're meeting those needs, but also making it rigorous still for those, you know, lower level learners. Just because they are 1 or a 2 specifically in our data doesn't mean that they still shouldn't have rigor. And then we looked at the teacher working conditions survey with question 2.1 and question 3.1, where over 30% of the teachers feel like they don't have enough class time to teach all students. Grade level standards should be the floor for what students should be learning. And then about 25% of the teachers feel like they don't have enough access to technology and feel there are issues with internet connectivity. So this is what we came up with our recommendations. So one of the things that we noticed from the Advanced Ed report was that they said classroom observations revealed that many classrooms use whole group teaching with very little evidence of small group or differentiated instruction, as well as the integration of technology leading to increased student learning. As evidence, in nearly 1/3 of classrooms, students had differentiated learning opportunities and activities that met his or her needs. The lack of differentiation suggests that either teachers are unable to interpret the data, or at the very least, do not use the data to develop instructional strategies. So we said one of our recommendations would be to provide professional development about differentiated instruction or flexible grouping. So teachers will never be able to reach all learners, whole group. How can teachers use flexible grouping along with other content teachers and support team members to effectively and successfully implement flexible grouping? As an administrator, I could revisit the master schedule. So what can be done to maximize instructional time? And then last there, assess internet issues within the school and work with the district tech experts to find ways to improve connectivity. So does the school need more tech resources? What grants can we apply for, or funds can we use to make this better? Are there teachers who are not sharing, such as if we have laptop carts that have to be passed around? And then do we implement a bring your own device program? So what is it that we can do kind of on our level that we have control over to fix that? And then questions or comments for Grace?
All right. If you'll stop sharing. Anyone have any questions for this group? That did a great job. Any questions? All right. Good job. All right, so I have one more thing I need to do before I turn it over. Who am I turning it over to for the next group? Is that you, Allison? Okay. All right, so before I do that, I would like at this point to get one more picture for my PowerPoint presentation. So I want all of you to video, no, don't leave. I want all of you to turn off your video so it's just a blank screen, and mute yourself, and I will tell you when to come back. Snippet. A new snippet. All right, everybody. Turn yourself off. Shauna. Audrey, turn yourself off. Shauna, turn off your video. I like that. All right, let's see. All right, hang on. All right. Okay, everybody can come on back. All right, everybody, you can come on back. Are you back? Okay, there you are. All right. So thank you very much. I'm trying to do something creative for you. So as a reminder to all of you who've joined, don't forget, if you've not filled out that It's About You, that email I sent you with your picture, with what job you've been in. If you don't put something, I'm just going to make up something. I'm going to go online to your school and find your picture. I'm going to make up something for you, so make up your why. So don't forget to do that. All right. So who am I turning it over to? Alice.
Yes.
All right. So you've got it.
Can you see my screen?
No, you're not sharing yet.
Hang on. Apologize, I don't know where my presentation went.
Well, let me know if you can't find it, because I have it.
I had it up and ready. Sorry about that.
Do you need it? Because you sent it to me in an email.
I got it. I
Okay.
just had to pull it back up again.
Anybody have any questions? We're giving Allison some time.
Yeah, I also was struggling. This worked perfect yesterday when we practiced, so I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Goodness.
I tell you what, let me go in and see if while you're trying to find it, I'll go in and pull up my email.
I have it. I just don't know why it won't share.
Well, and that way, if it comes up, I can share it. When did you send it to me?
Hey, Allison, did you share it with, did you like share your tab or share your screen or the whole screen? Like, what did you share?
The screen, but now like all that's gone entirely.
Hang on, let me see if I can find it.
Hang on, let me try again. How about now?
Here we
It's
are.
working now.
All right. I knew I was like, something is wrong with this.
Okay. The S's are up.
All right. Okay. I'm gonna let William begin for us, and then we'll take turns back and forth.
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name's William Sanders. Allison Snyder is my partner. I'm going to cover slides 1 through 5, and Allison is going to cover 6 through 9. We're at Digital Learning Competency 5. PR PLC norms, and welcome again. Begin and end on time. Listen and speak respectfully. Participate actively. Be open to new ideas. Our PLC agenda, introduction and purpose, 1 to 2 minutes. Review of competency, 5, 1 to 2 minutes. Element 1, data and recommendations, 1 to 2 minutes. Element 2, data and recommendations, 1 to 2 minutes. Element 3, data and recommendations, 1 to 2 minutes. Questions, 3 to 5 minutes. Digital learning, digital teaching and learning. The following digital competencies are to be viewed within the context of the current standards of the school executives or extensions in relationship with the ways that digital competencies impact and affect schools. School and district administrators should use these competencies to improve their practice, build capacity in their staff, and drive student learning within the school. Each focus area carries within a subset of competencies that help you explain and understand the area. And I will be going into depth once we get into the substandards. Throughout all of the competencies is the underlying assumption that the leadership in regard to the digital citizenship. Administrators should model the behavior they expect from staff and students and should continually seek to represent their schools and districts with expectations for themselves both on and offline. The community, and I apologize guys because your pictures are covering up some of the writing. Community administrators will engage all stakeholders in the purpose and function of the school to leverage types and points of connection and communications to ensure the constant effective flow of input. Model responsive use of technology, including to, but not limited to, communication, social, ethical, legal issues. Facilitate, leverage effective partnerships between the school, greater community, including global communities to improve the organization, and communities available to staff, students to improve learning. Now, some of the examples that we had for this are ECATS, CCAS, Easy, which they use in Wake County schools, school websites where parents may pay their lunch money account, PowerSchool, EVOS, teacher websites, Google Classrooms, Adminum, Play-Doh Canvas, and Clever, which I was trained in back in January. Clever is very crucial to us because we have a lot of students who take credit recovery courses because they failed. So credit recovery hybrid courses just been caught up.
All right, and looking at element 1, model responsible technology, including but not limited to communication, social, ethical, legal, and global issues. We're looking at the advanced ed report, and the large area of weakness for this is that the uses digital technology to communicate and work collaboratively for learning. There was over 80% not observed there. And so the recommendations for that are that using some PD opportunities to support teachers with technology uses in the classroom, and ensuring that school and social media sites and websites are current and allow teacher and community input. Making sure that we are working with all stakeholders and information that they feel is important for the school, and making sure that they get that information as well. And then looking at element 2, facilitate and leverage effective partnerships between the school and greater community, including local, state, and global communities, to improve the organization and opportunities available to staff and students and support digital learning. We saw on the school report card that there was a low amount of funding for supplies and equipment and things. So looking at this, a large area of weakness for this school is that limited amounts of money have been allotted for supplies and materials as well as equipment. So the recommendations for this would be that the admin team can work with the school leadership team to locate grants and apply for these. This can increase instructional technology supplies. Having a PD opportunity make and take session where teachers are trained to create donors choose projects. Teachers or grade level teams can work together to have projects funded, meaning they come to this PD prepared to actually create this project, coming away with it completed and really using that best use of our time and having them come away with something that they can bring back to their classrooms. And then as always, work with the PTA to allocate funds for digital needs, really going to them for the needs of the supplies for digital learning. And looking at element 3, leverage online communication channels. to create and maintain open discourse and collaboration with community stakeholders to establish and meet learning goals. So overall, teacher working condition results reflected that the communication is the overall strength for the school. The weakest area was where parents and guardians support teachers to contribute to the success of students. So really, and when looking at that, it tells us that there could be a situation where parents don't know what they need to support. Is it being fully communicated to them? And just making sure that we really increase that. So some recommendations for that are to invite the community members and parents to an academic night, allowing them to see the daily requirements for students and discuss specific academic targets. What does your child's day look like? What are the academic targets they need to hit? And how can we collaborate together to get them there? And then consider allowing parents to participate in leadership team meetings virtually to promote awareness. Oftentimes leadership team meetings, which are open to everyone, are not at a time where parents can participate, but having these meetings virtual will allow some more participation and hopefully open those lines of communication. And then, of course, having teachers and admin team communicate weekly with parents using the Connect Ed, using the weekly newsletters, those can go online, using the website and emails to really communicate the upcoming academic expectations and learning targets. And this information can be sent electronically to all families. So thank you so much for that.
All right, does anybody have any questions for group 5? Did a great job. All right, if you'll stop sharing. All right, so what I want to do now is basically have one more little thing that I need to do, and then I'm going to, all right, so I'm going to group to class session 8, and everything that we've had so far is available. I should have done this at the very beginning, but just want to remind you that at this point in time in the perfect world, July 20th is coming up, and so everything should be in TaskStream, or we should have the PSYOP in TaskStream. So make sure that you have that there, or are working on it. And if you're having a problem, let me know, or let Dr. Revis know, because she's the expert on TaskStream. So, and just to remind you that if you're pushed and you've got a lot on your plate, do your TaskStream now, because I can give you a little bit of flexibility with some of the Blackboard stuff to keep up to that A grade. So keep doing that. So we had our presentation tonight. So there are a couple of little things here that for you to look at. These are all resources that are made available to you. But the thing that I would, by the way, if your school is used for a polling site and the elections are coming up in November, I would suggest that you look at this piece of guidance about how to handle political campaigns in your school. There's some great articles here, but I want to take you through a real quick little, what we're going to be doing over the next, what we're going to be spending some time on the next 3 sessions is to talking about preparing you for that job. So I call this, congratulations, you've been hired, now what? So let's talk about some of the things that you can expect. All right, let me go back. I just thought I think I'm going too fast. All right, so now what? So I want to just, some broad topics I want to cover today is, once you've gotten that call from the central office that you have been recommended, that you're going to be hired, and you start work in 2 weeks, or you start work in August, there are some things that I think that will make you successful as a principal or as an assistant principal too. So I call these some of the critical tips for your success. And this is borrowed from research and from a lot of other people, smarter people than I, who've shared information about this. But here are the 3 basic things that I think you really need to be aware of. 1, you need to do some personal reflection about what your core values are, what is important to you, and what you want to bring to that school, and what you can bring. So reflect on what your personal values are, what your why is, and to make sure that you are comfortable with yourself in that position. Don't ever apply for a school that you know you don't want the job. Some people will do that just for the experience of interviewing. But if you turn down, if the superintendent tells you that you've been hired and you turn down that job, it is not going to reflect well on you. So reflect. The second thing is to establish your non-negotiables. These are the things that you will not have any compromise on. And then finally, to find some balance in your life. All right, so here goes. I'm going to spend a little time talking about each one of these, but the first one is to be reflective. So when you go into your first principalship or assistant principalship, I would suggest that before you even step foot in that door on the first week, you think about what your challenges are going to be. Now, your challenges that William has will be different challenges from what Shauna has, because you bring different abilities and you bring different skills and you're more comfortable. If everybody can mute, that would be great. There's a little bit of feedback in the background. But if you will have a reflection about what you think the challenges will be, because they will be different. But here's some that you probably are going to run across. But before you ever step foot in that office, and then kind of think about these things, but are they going to be mandates from the state or from the local government? Did the superintendent give you a specific task when you were assigned to this job? Will there be pressure from the district office? Does the superintendent want you to reduce suspensions? Is that all he or she talks about? Then that tells you that that's going to be one of the challenges that you face when you go into that school. And when you have that conversation with the principal that hires you or the superintendent that hires you, one of your last questions should be, what is it, what do you want? What do you want, or what do you want to see accomplished in this school in the short term and in the long term? Now, the long term is going to be better grades, staff morale, those kinds of things. But the short term is going to be very telling to you, because it's going to tell you what that person's priority is. And if it is the superintendent's priority, it's probably the Board of Education's priority. And it probably means that you will be evaluated and you will be held to that standard of what you'll be doing. So that may be one of the challenges you face, is that the superintendent or the district office has a different perspective. There may be staff issues. There may be an issue of a family balance. If you've been in elementary school all your life and you become assistant principal at a high school, your life is changing. You will not be spending Tuesday night and Wednesday night and Thursday night with your family unless they're going to the ball games with you in a normal time, not in the COVID era, but in a normal time, your job will change. And and even if you're the principal of a high school, and even in the middle school, a lot's going to change, and you're going to have to make those decisions about the family balance and work overload. These are all examples of what some of your challenges can be, but you need to self-reflect and say, in taking this job, here's what I think my 3 biggest challenges are going to be. And at the end of that first year, and then write them down. And at the end of that first year, go back and re-examine what you've done to not make them challenges. Because if you go into the job and you know these are going to be your 3 top challenges, you have done a disservice to yourself if you don't address them and learn from others who have successfully dealt with those challenges. So reflect. All right. The next thing you need to do is to make sure that they are clear and everyone knows what your non-negotiables are. A non-negotiable, are they in discipline? Is it in finances, or is it in special ed, testing, accountability, or school culture? So your non-negotiables are the things that you don't have any control over. And even if you did, they are part of your core values and your beliefs that you are not going to change. Like discipline. Let's take the example of how discipline can be a non-negotiable. Surely, all of you understand that chewing gum is not a capital offense. And it is not something that warrants a child being sent home for, no matter how many times they chew chewing gum. Can you imagine sending a child home every time they come to your office for the 3rd offense of chewing gum? There are other ways to do this. So decide in your mind and establish for you and yourself, and then for your staff, what your non-negotiables are. Discipline's a huge one. And finances. What do you expect of your staff? What do you expect of yourself? And particularly when it comes to special education and those laws and and accountability that's tied to that, there are very few negotiables with that, and the school culture. All right, so then handle those. Ask yourself what can be done quickly and a priority. The third thing is to find the balance, and that means learning to know when to say no, who you can say no to, and considering these things. Because a lot of times when you go into that administrative, you're that first assistant principal or principalship, you're going to want to be so successful that you are going to be taking on more responsibilities than you need to. You are going to think that we need to have this new thing at the school. You're going to spearhead it when there are other people in the building who can do it. And a lot of times people are going to try to dump their jobs on you. That teacher who's ineffective that you're trying to help them improve, they're going to try to put as much on you to fix than for them. So be careful. Learn when to say no and who you can say no to. All right. Tips for a good year. Make sure that you take care of your heart, your body, your soul. Slow down. Wait. Always. This one's a personnel. The third one's a personnel. Always, always don't shortcut taking references. And if you get a horrible feeling, or you get a feeling that someone's not telling you something about one of the references you're calling, they're not telling you something. Because one, they legally can't, or two, they have been prohibited from telling you something. But if you if you hang up that phone from a reference and you think, you know, I had the feeling she wanted to tell me something else, but couldn't, or her answers were short, move on. Do what other people do, things that no one else wants to do. In other words, be a model what you expect. Make sure it's all about the kids. Make sure you see them every day. You show up and you send cards and say thank you. Got a real quick little quit up. All right. And so also reach out to others who are career principals or veteran principals, and develop that little network of people that can help you. Because you need to do that. Because when you're a first year AP or a first year principal, you do not want to call the central office every day asking for directions. That's not why they put you there. So develop a network of friends. Develop someone who's gone through that first year assistant principal or principalship, and use them as a sounding board. Should I do this? What would you do? Use that, because if you keep calling the director of elementary education, the next time we're sitting around and we're talking about you for a future job, the director of elementary education is going to say, you know what? If I didn't get a call from her every day, I would know she's not at home. She's not at work. You don't want that kind of PR. Now, if it's something critical, or if it's something that's going to hit the press, obviously you need to reach out to the central office. But if it's something that you can get advice from your colleagues, do that. All right, so here's a test. Real quickly, we're going to do this because we're running out of time. We're going to do this. These are 5 things, and you have to rank these between we've got to do all of these between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. You have 1 hour. Tell me which is going to be first, which is second, which is third, which is fourth, which is fifth. I'm going to give you 1 minute to look at it. I want you to rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 minute. The first thing you're going to do, and then I want someone to give me their ranking. Not one of the presenters tonight, but just someone who wants to tell me how you would rank your day from 8 to 9 a.m. 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. This is your first day on the job, first hour. Okay, that's a minute, or I think it is. So who wants to tackle it? And again, I will tell you what I would do. That doesn't necessarily make it right, but I'll try to justify, and I would want you to try to justify yours too. All right, real quickly, because I've got 2 of these tests, and then I need to do one more thing, and we'll be done for the night. Who?
Dr. Stone, I try.
All right, you go. Who am I talking to?
Sneed.
All right.
So I think I would take the 3rd grader first, because you said this is first thing in the morning, so the referral is waiting from the previous day. So it could be from his, the teacher that he sees first thing. So I want to try to get ahead of that. The second one, I'm not sure if I would meet with the parent, but I would, acknowledge that the parent is there. And depending on the situation, try to schedule a meeting in the future, or see if she could, wait a few minutes to give that parent time to calm down.
Good luck.
So the third one, I would probably say the teacher. And then the fourth and fifth, those last 2, I think they could be interchangeable. I can call the superintendent back at any time, correct?
Yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
won't get him, but you can call.
Yeah, I mean, because he
Get
just
her.
called to congratulate me. So, you know, yeah.
All
That's my
right. Anybody,
thoughts.
anybody have a different opinion? Real quickly.
Dr. Stone, I'll go. It's Chelsea.
All right, Chelsea.
I think that I would talk to the parent first in the morning, have a parent first approach. I think that's very important to understand what's going on, what their concern is, and let them know that their concerns are valid. I think that's very important. And the longer you make an angry parent wait, probably the more angry they're going to become. So try to de-escalate that situation. I then would talk to the third grader who had the discipline referral waiting, only to try to de-escalate that situation in case I try to put out little fires that may escalate later on and try to understand if there was an issue that we can try to support them with. The newspaper interview is a little tricky because it doesn't talk about what the context of that interview is for. So if it's a negative conversation,
It's because you've been
or
hired.
something
You're
that
new. It's a fluff piece. You've been hired.
Okay. Well, then I would definitely go into the 5th grade teacher to talk to her about her schedule and validate her concerns. And then the newspaper and probably the superintendent, just because you're probably not going to get the superintendent anyway. So you can try to call them back and then follow up with an email because they're so busy, they probably aren't going to be able to answer, but you can try.
Awesome.
But definitely talk to the angry parent first. That's my personal opinion.
Okay. All right. If it were me, I would try to do the angry parent first. I don't want her out in the office being angry for the next 10 minutes. I would tell that young man to just sit and have a seat and let him cool off a little bit too. If it were me, that would be the only thing I would do differently, is because that angry parent's going to get more angry. Not to mention the fact that people coming in and out of the office are going to see Mrs. Angry over there. She's probably, if she doesn't feel like you're listening to her, and to your point, Ms. Sneed, even if you just say to her, Ms. Smith, I need to talk to Johnny real quick to send him back to the classroom. I promise you it'll take me 5 minutes. If you please just have a seat, and maybe put her in the assistant principal's office. I'd move her out of the office so she doesn't have an audience to talk about you. So, and then
Right, because that's what you said. You did say you would pull the student first and have him wait. And so that's basically, about the same thing I said. But continue.
Okay. Okay, I'd pull the parent. Yes. All right. But I'd let the parent know, and then I'd talk to the kid.
Yeah,
The parent. But I would acknowledge the parent so she doesn't go off on it.
right. I agree with that. I
All
agree
right.
with Chelsea. Yeah.
All right. All right. So here's your next test. To people other than the ones who've answered, this is you have a whole week. So if you will rank these in priority, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things, from Monday to Monday. So you have a whole week for this one. And I'm going to give you 1 minute, and then I'm going to have one of you respond. And just remember, you've been there. This is your first job, first week, Monday to Monday. And this one's loaded with some problems, which we'll talk about more later, but this one's got some biggies. All right, who wants to tackle? I didn't mean to scare you.
Okay.
Okay, who is this? Who's talking?
Elon,
All right, go.
definitely want to address that monthly fire drill report, being that you have missed the monthly deadline. So definitely want to go ahead and get that taken care of.
A+,
So,
your job's on the line.
Yeah, right. And then I will go ahead and take care of that Title I report that's due to central office. That comes with lots of funding, and you don't want to miss key deadlines like that. Then
And
I
remember,
will
and
address.
a good point. And I'm on board with you entirely for the first two. Can't wait to see
Okay.
the four. But just remember that Title I report that you have to fill out in your school. That central office has got 26 of those Title I reports to put together that it has to send back. So if I'm your Title I director and I've got this report due, I want you to make it a priority too. Go ahead. You're
All right.
going
Next,
along.
I would go with the director's tour, since the school is being looked at for some type of summer school site. That would be my third option. Letter to the PTA council to address their concerns, pastors group, then TV station.
Anyone, number 1 and 2, I'm on board. Totally. And the others are kind of fluffy things that you can do in any kind of order. But anybody want to tell me why you'd want to spend a little bit more time talking to the pastors? You might want to involve some more people.
Well, that's more of that community involvement piece, your community stakeholders. So yeah,
Right.
I could see why that could take precedent over the other two.
Well, and also I would want to have some other people at the table with me too, because remember, one, even as a principal, you may be the principal of the building, but the district has got some really close guidelines about what you can do as far as sharing space. And anytime you mix religion and schools, you're going to have probably another eye at the table. So the director, he or she can wait. I agree. PTA, that's all to write, but you did a great job. The big key thing here is monthly power drills. There is no timeline on that. If you're already a week late, you have broken the law and board policy. Your Title I report's critical because that's what gets your district the money. And remember, you're holding other people up when you don't do that. All right. So I have stopped sharing. It is 7 o'clock. So I do want to remind you, last thing I want to remind you is we'll meet next week at 6 o'clock. I do want to remind you to send me someone's waving, Garrett, way back. Send me your pictures with your part. I need that. I need all 28 of you to do it. And I promise you, if you don't do it, I'm going to create a slide for you. And it may not like it. All right. We'll see y'all next week. Anybody?
Dr. Stone, I have something.
Do you want me to cut off recording?
That's what you can or not, doesn't matter.